All right, this is episode 1 of Reading with Ron, book 1 of Blood of the Prince, Greater Things Than Thou by R.L. Dean. Chapter 1. As winter settles in, an old man sits down to pen the tale of his youth, a sense of melancholy, of love lost, and the disappointment of labors performed in vain, cloak his shoulders as he leans forward, the quill in the weathered knuckles of his hand hovering over parchment. Asking himself where it all began was unnecessary. Time could not erase the flames that leapt in his mind's eye. My first memory is that of my house burning down, of heat and blood and sweat, the things that would become the fruit of my life. A mere boy then, I am an old man now, writing this tale, and my body bears the scars of Galen's plans. I do not remember my mother or my father, nor do I recall any brothers or sisters. Though I am sure I had such, they were seared from my mind along with all feelings from my heart. The flames licked at the dry, whitewashed planks of my home, or perhaps it was a neighbor's home. Maybe I was staying the night with a friend. I do not even recall the name of where I lived. From my years of conversation with Galen, relating to him my memories of the countryside and little things like the sassafras blossoms that would blow in the wind, he came to believe I was raised south of the Vis River near the trading town of Orland, but not Orland itself. Orland is too large a city and well defended for the events that took place that night to have occurred. I am convinced I will never know if he was right, but it is not a burden to be ignorant of that particular truth. After this much time, it no longer matters. There was a hot wind that summer night, lending strength to the fires that were started by Baylor's men during the raid. The air turned with smoke, desperation, and fear. People rushed by, running wild through the dirt-packed streets. Women carried babies and dragged children by the arm, and I remember a bug-eyed man pulling a frightened cow. Homes burst into red and orange. Men worked with useless buckets of water to put out a growing avenue of flames. A horse ran over someone. She looked right at me before her face slammed into the dirt. Odd. I can't recall my own mother's face, but that woman's face is very vivid, tangible even. I was paralyzed, unable to move, watching everything that I must have cared for turn to ash before Baylor's cruelty and greed. There were the sounds of fighting, and of what I know now, his swords being pulled from scabbards and the ring of metal on metal, and then the sounds of dying. It was Baylor himself, not one of his men, that found me. He was a large man. One moment I was in the midst of an infernal chaos, and then the next he was standing in front of me. His sweaty face was half in shadow and half glowing with firelight. His beard was grimy and his long hair tangled. He looked like he came from the wild run. That's the way I always remember him, a brute, a large and ugly abscess in my life. I said hello to him and asked him who he was. His beard split into a smile of rotten teeth. Why, I'm the old man of the woods, come to steal you, boy. The old man of the woods. It's a name mothers use to frighten precocious children from straying too far from home. He will come and take you, like a lamb that escapes the shepherd's notice and is taken by a wolf. It was then that I realized all of this was my fault. The fire, the panic, the death. I was the cause, because the old man of the woods would not have come for me unless I had done something wrong. Something surged in my body, and my rigid legs broke free of their hold. 2 steps into my run, I heard Baylor laugh, and then there was a flash of pain and blackness. I woke gagging on the smell of moldy potatoes. I thought I opened my eyes, but it was black, like I still had them closed. My ribs ached and my stomach felt hollow. I was laying on something. The weight of my own body stretched me and my hands tied behind my back. That something was moving, ponderously like a plow horse. I tried to turn my head, and the pain in the base of my skull was like a dagger being shoved out of my eye. Something wet and sticky ran down the side of my face. I licked my lips and tasted copper. It was then that I had learned that there is no limit to the amount of fear a person can experience. The realization that it was blood I tasted energized my limbs. I bucked and twisted. It was a brief and futile attempt at freedom. My feet and my hands were tied and numb. Floundering on the horse's back caused the potato sack to rub against my sweaty skin, burning my chin and shoulders. The horse neighed in protest, and someone hit me on the backside. "Stop squirming, boy," a gruff voice said. So trapped in the heat and itching and hurting, I closed my eyes and waited. From time to time during that long ride to Baylor's camp, I could hear his men talking. Their voices were weary, but they were pleased at the crimes they accomplished. At that age, I didn't understand their lewd remarks about the women that had fallen victim to their lusts. Realization grew over time, but by then my life was horrible, and their actions were normal fare. As the ride lengthened, their conversation shifted to complaints and their language more coarse. Listening to them, I wondered about my grievous errors in life. How many times I had been told to go to bed now and not done so. Or something else equally offensive, something that would make the old man of the woods notice me. I didn't remember all my jumble of thoughts, just regret at any perceived sins and fear of what was going to happen to me. I was convinced I was going to die, and so not being able to escape my fate, tied up and choking on my own blood, heat inside the sack, I did what was natural for a child to do. I cried. All right, we'll stop there today and pick up in chapter 2.